Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we are diving headfirst into a massive 2,000-year-old puzzle. We're looking at one of the most fascinating and intensely debated passages in the entire Bible, Jesus' Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24. We're going to uncover exactly how ancient history, architectural symbolism, and deep theology all intersect to solve a riddle that has literally confused readers for nearly 2 millennia.
Now, we're starting off with a really massive historical tension here. If you just read the text at face value, Jesus uses some pretty extreme cosmic language. He's talking about stars falling out of the sky and the sun going completely dark. And the wildest part, he promised that this apocalypse would happen to his own generation. This has led a lot of skeptics, historians, and even faithful readers to ask a very uncomfortable question. Was Jesus simply mistaken about the timeline for the end of the world?
To figure this out, we're going to journey through 5 stages today. A world-ending prophecy, the temple as a microcosm, the fall of Jerusalem, a typological prophecy, and finally, reason, faith, and revelation. All right, part 1, a world-ending prophecy. Let's look at exactly what Jesus said that sparked so much confusion in the first place.
When you look right at the text, the core issue just jumps out at you. Jesus goes all in on this extreme, cosmic catastrophe stuff. He's warning about heavenly signs, the future judgment of God, the sun being darkened, the moon refusing to give its light, and stars literally falling from heaven. Naturally, if you're a modern reader, this sounds exactly like the end of the physical planet. It sounds like a total atmospheric meltdown, right?
But here's where the tension really peaks. Jesus makes this incredibly bold statement. He says, "Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away till all these things take place." Like the people standing right there listening to him. That creates a pretty big problem for us because, well, look around. We're still here. The world obviously didn't end in the 1st century. So how do we reconcile this? Did the prophecy just fail?
So, section 2, the temple as a microcosm. To really get what Jesus meant, we have to step out of our modern 21st century brains for a second.
You see, when the ancient Israelites looked at the Jerusalem temple, they weren't just seeing a bunch of stacked stones, gold, and wood. They saw a microcosm, basically a miniature architectural replica of the entire universe, crafted by God himself to represent creation. What's super fascinating here is that ancient Jewish writers, guys like the historian Josephus or the philosopher Philo, actually linked the temple's physical layout directly to the 3 realms of the known cosmos. The deepest, most sacred room, the most holy place, represented heaven. The holy place represented the earth or the land, and that outer courtyard with its massive bronze water basin, that represented the sea.
And you know, this connection goes both ways. Just look at the Psalms. The writer points out that God built his earthly sanctuary like the high heavens. So conversely, the entire universe itself was basically viewed as a giant macro temple where God lives with his people. Keep that architectural symbol in the back of your mind. It is absolutely crucial for cracking Jesus' words here.
Moving on to section 3, the fall of Jerusalem. Let's ground this in historical reality and see how it builds our understanding.
So, on a purely literal historical level, when Jesus made these predictions around AD 33, he was actually predicting the demise of the Jerusalem temple. He was acting just like the Old Testament prophets who warned about the Babylonians destroying the first temple way back in 586 BC. Here, Jesus is previewing the violent destruction that the Roman legions would carry out in AD 70. He was specifically warning his followers to run for the mountains the second they saw the city surrounded by armies.
And we can't overstate this. It was an absolute, unimaginable catastrophe. When the Romans besieged Jerusalem in AD 70, history tells us that over 1 million Jews lost their lives. The city was completely leveled, and that magnificent temple was burned to the ground. Jesus' warning that not one stone will be left upon another was entirely, literally validated. Historically speaking, his timeline was 100% spot on. It happened exactly within the lifetime of that generation.
Okay, but you're probably thinking, what about that crazy language about the stars falling? Well, look at how the ancient prophets talked.
Isaiah prophesied the fall of Babylon by talking about the sun and moon going dark. Ezekiel did the exact same thing for Egypt. They used this wild, heavenly chaos language not to predict literal atmospheric meltdowns, but to announce the world-shaking collapse of pagan empires. Jesus just took that classic prophetic vocabulary and shockingly aimed it right at Jerusalem. To the Jewish people, the fall of their temple literally was the end of their world.
Which brings us to section 4, a typological prophecy. This is where things get really deep. Let's look at the two horizons of meaning here.
We have to talk about typology. It's a massive concept in biblical studies. Basically, it's the idea that a real historical event or person actually anticipates or prefigures a much greater reality down the road. The initial event is real history, sure, but it acts as a type, a prophetic preview of something way bigger in the future.
Because of this, Matthew 24 has two horizons of meaning. Prophetically, on the literal historical level, yes, it's about the Romans conquering Jerusalem in AD 70. But remember that microcosm concept? Since the temple was a symbol of creation, its destruction acts as a historical overture. Typologically, the end of that miniature universe anticipates the real, fiery dissolution of God's macro-temple, the actual universe itself, at the end of time. Jesus brilliantly answered his disciples by blending the end of the temple with the end of the world, because theologically, they point to the exact same reality.
Finally, section 5, reason, faith, and revelation. How on earth do we process a mystery this big?
Well, Pope John Paul II's encyclical Fides et Ratio, which translates to faith and reason, gives us a really incredible framework here. It's indispensable for approaching these complex, dual-layered revelations without getting trapped in total skepticism or strict blind literalism. Right at the beginning of the letter, he writes this beautiful line: "Faith and reason are like two wings on which the human spirit rises to the contemplation of truth." And that hits the nail on the head for our explainer today. We need the wing of reason, doing the historical analysis, studying the AD 70 Roman siege, reading Josephus. But we have to pair that harmoniously with the wing of faith to grasp that ultimate typological meaning and trust in Christ's final return. You really need both wings to fly.
So that leaves us with this final, kind of wild thought to ponder. Reason and history prove to us that the microcosm, the physical temple, fell exactly to the generation, just as Jesus said it would. If that historical preview was so stunningly accurate, what does that mean for the wing of faith? How will you prepare for the day the visible universe, the macro temple itself, finally passes away? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep seeking the truth.